Is the Santa Clara real estate market currently dropping? Well, not really. Hey, it's Vinicius Brasil, Santa Clara real estate guy, with a monthly market update to update you on what's happening in our local market. Now, if you're not aware of me and what I do, every month I post out a market update talking about what's happening. We recap the previous month's sales, we look at a few other metrics, and discuss overall the broad view of what's impacting our real estate market and try to figure out what to expect moving forward. So let's jump right into it and let's talk about what we noticed last month. So I'm right here on my blog, Santa Clara Real Estate Guy, and every month I publish a market update. You can subscribe and we send this out every month to our subscribers, and we also post it on our social media channel, on Facebook, also on LinkedIn. So first of all, last month in July, we saw 36 homes close escrow. That was 14 less than the previous month of June. And that already is an indication that the market has slowed down. We're not seeing as many homes sell, and typically this time of year, we see a lot of homes sell. So the market has slowed down from a standpoint of volume and buyers. But what also has happened is we're not seeing many listings come up on the market. So as a result, inventory has dropped, and we'll get to that as well. So the average price of a home that sold in July was about 1.59. That's 315,000 less than the previous month. Now, if you have seen previous market updates that I've done, we talked about how the market had shifted, and that shift was occurring sometime between mid-April to early May. And the homes that were selling at that time, that was kind of the peak, and anything afterwards, we saw a very substantial drop in prices, and we're noticing that now. So the homes that sold in May were closing in maybe June and July. So we're starting to see a big significant drop here on the July closings. So same thing as far as the median price of a home sold, 1.62, that was about $288,000 lower than and the same thing goes for the price of square feet, which also saw a drop from $1,269 per square feet all the way to $1,109 per square feet. So, without a doubt, prices have dropped significantly from their peaks to where we are now. So, and then we looked at inventory. So in the month of July, we started with 53 active single-family homes on the market, and we ended up with 63 single-family homes on the market. Where we stand right now in the middle of August, we're right around 50 to 55. So we've actually dropped in inventory. Now that's kind of interesting because when this was all unfolding, the market was very slow. There's a lack of confidence out there for buyers because they were looking at what was happening with the stock market. The stock market was selling off, interest rates were shooting up, and that was causing them to feel that the market was going to drop further. And as a result, buyers in those kind of situations are going to step back and have more of a wait and see attitude as far as how, if they're going to jump into the market and buy a home. Meanwhile, sellers are still planning to sell their homes, so we should expect inventory to increase. So I felt as though inventory was going to continue to increase, but that didn't happen. In fact, we have lower inventory right now in August than we did at the beginning of the month. So let's take a look at what we're noticing in Altos research. Now, if you don't understand Altos research, it's some reports that I subscribe to. I share them with my clients for free. You're welcome to subscribe, shoot me a message, or just go on our site and you can subscribe to pretty much any zip code here in Santa Clara County. I'm going to go over Santa Clara specifically. And what we're going to notice here on Altos research is they've got this little column here on the right-hand side where you can see some trends, for the last 90 days, and in terms of median price, where that trend has gone. Actually, it's dropped a little bit. You can see the median price of listings has dropped as well. And this, in talking about price per square foot, also dropping. And of course, average days on market increasing and also dropping, right? So some of this stuff may sound a little bit strange. So why is, average days on market, for instance, that's the number of time it's taking a home to sell. And a couple months ago, that was a very low number because homes were selling really quickly within the last 2 days. And that number has shot up recently, and now it's starting to drop down. And the reason why it's starting to drop down is home sellers are now aware of the market, right? They weren't quite sure what was going on 2 months ago. A lot of people weren't. And of course, the headlines that you were seeing 2 months ago aren't the headlines that you're seeing now. I mean, if we take a look right now at the headlines that we're seeing for Bay Area real estate, you can see right here, Mercury News, sellers beginning to make concessions as Bay Area home prices drop, right? House prices in San Francisco Bay Area experience steep declines from April peak craziness, right? So now we're starting to see the popular media talk about how home prices have fallen, but we weren't seeing these headlines 2 months ago. So now we're noticing that. People are looking at Zillow. They're also noticing that Zillow is reporting their decline. And therefore, sellers are more apt to adjust their price now, their listing prices, to a more realistic price than what it was 2 months ago when the market was shifting and not many people were certain where the prices were. So we're noticing days on market starting to drop back down again. And there's other factors that are affecting the days on market to drop, and we'll talk about that as well. And then you'll notice this price decreased. And this is a number that you typically don't see going up in our market. Generally we have a pretty hot market where homes are selling quickly, and we don't see situations where sellers are dropping their prices. And now we're seeing over here 35% of homes on the market have had a price decrease, which is typical when you do have a slow market, right? And then conversely, price increased. Now that's kind of strange. Why are we seeing listings with prices increasing? Well, that's a strange phenomenon that really just happens in our area, because a lot of sellers, when they put their homes on the market, they list their homes at a price that's lower than the price that they're really expecting, with the expectation of getting multiple offers and with the hopes of selling for a higher price. Well, when they put their home on the market and that doesn't happen, and they've got a list price out there that is a list price that they're not willing to accept, they need to adjust their price to a price that they're willing to accept. So that's why you might notice on the market a home that started at a lower price and then they shot up to a higher price, and you're curious as to why that's going on. Well, there's the reason. And then of course, relisted homes that cancel, because their agents couldn't sell it, or getting relisted. These are all indications that the market has shifted, right? And of course, inventory, we talked about how inventory was going up, and now it's kind of dropping back down, which is a trend that you normally would see in a market that's tightening up and becoming more of a seller's market, right? And then the market action index. Now, this to me is probably the best metric you can look at, because all these other metrics can be somewhat misleading, right? The market action index is a proprietary metric specific to Altos, where it kind of gauges a bunch of things and it gives you a number, and that number will tell you whether or not the market is strengthening for sellers or weakening. So the higher that number is, the more of a seller's market it is. The lower that market is, the more, the market is turning into a buyer market. And as we can see, we can go back all the way here to the beginning of May or late April, and we see that number was as high as 90, and now it is 66. But actually a week ago, it was down to 63. So it actually kind of went up a little bit, right? All right, so Altos is kind of telling us the market is tightening up a little bit, which is interesting to see because we are in August, and August is typically where we see a lot of homes on the market. So right here, I'm looking at the MLS right now, and there's about 52 homes on the market. A couple more got listed today. So we're right around between 50 to 55, and some of them are going to sell this week as well. So that's currently where inventory levels are at right now. So let's see what's going on with mortgage rates right now. So mortgage rates, and this is on a national level, right? So a 30-year fix is around 5.25. That was as high at one point as 5.5 and 5.75. So mortgage rates have gone down. You can kind of see the graph here of where they were at a couple weeks ago. So mortgage rates has actually dipped in these last 2 weeks. Another interesting detail is the stock market. Yeah, here is the NASDAQ, and you can see, obviously when this was all, the market was dropping over here in April and May, the steep decline that the market was experiencing, and then all this uncertainty that was happening throughout May, June, and then all of a sudden here in July, we've seen the market starting to rally, and it's gone up quite a bit, right? It's all the way up to 13,000 here for the NASDAQ. And what that's done is it's instilled a lot of confidence in buyers to jump back in the market, right? When they start to see the stock market performing better, their stocks are worth more money, their RSUs are worth more money, and they feel like, the smart money isn't as concerned about what's going on. So we've also noticed more buyers jumping back into the market, and that's resulted in more homes selling and lower inventory, and therefore more tightening of the market and better conditions for sellers. So the market is in a really interesting place right now. What you would think would be a very weak market and prices would be dropping isn't the case. The market is stabilized, prices are pretty firm right now from what I can tell, and buyers are buying property. There have been several properties that were sitting on the market for quite a long time that have now gone into contract, and the reason being is there isn't really a lot of properties out there, and buyers are starting to get a little bit more anxious. Maybe they feel like the market's hit a bottom and they want to jump in and take advantage of this. So what's really going on? Why is the stock market going up? And are we completely out of the woods right now in terms of this market fluctuation or this drop in prices? Well, that's a good question. And that's like the billion-dollar question that everyone's asking themselves right now in terms of investors and Wall Street. So from what I understand is going on right now is Wall Street, or the smart money in Wall Street, if you want to call it that, is betting against the Fed. They feel that the Fed, in their original plan of how they plan to go about raising interest rates, is going to at some point abandon that plan and pivot and start to drop real estate sooner than what they had indicated, right? This happened back in 2018. And so the smart money thinks that the Fed at some point, maybe at the end of the year, or who knows, is going to abandon their interest rate hikes and start to drop interest rates down again, maybe even to resume quantitative easing. This is going to result in a huge market rally, right? And then of course, it's going to bring back more confidence into the market. Buyers will come back into the market and we'll start to see prices go in again. So that's a huge bet right now that some people are taking on Wall Street, but we just don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen with the Fed. So, it's a gamble right now. Is this a great time to buy? Well, it's absolutely a better time to buy than if you were shopping in the beginning of the year when prices were shooting up. But have we reached the market bottom? Well, the answer is no one knows, right? So I would continue, if I was a buyer, to be out there looking, trying to find the right home. And if the right home comes up, and we know how hard that can be for the right home to come up, especially in conditions like this when there isn't a lot of inventory, to make the best attempt to buy that home. Now, two things can happen, all right? The Fed can announce in a couple months that, hey, we've contained inflation, we're going to stop this interest rate hikes, and in fact, we're going to start dropping the interest rate hikes, or dropping the interest rate because we want to, return growth back into the economy, and that will cause the market to shoot up. And if you bought during this little drop, then that was a great decision. The alternative would be that the Fed resumes course, right? And Wall Street begins to realize that the bets that they made were wrong, and then they start selling, and that causes another drop, a more settling of home prices. But again, no one knows. And if you know, well, either let us know, or I'm sure you're going to make the right decision. For sellers, this is a nice little break if you were deliberating whether or not you were going to sell at the end of the year, or you really needed to sell, and maybe you put your plans on hold a bit because of this sudden market drop. Well, I'm here to tell you the market is a little bit healthier than it was in the last 2 months. And it could continue to get healthier because we're moving into fall, and typically fall has less inventory than the summer, and of course early winter, which has less inventory to fall. So generally these are good times to sell. So if the market continues on like this, selling in September and October might be a good thing to do. And you could still maybe resume some of the plans that you had in terms of, selling at the end of the year and relocating, or whatever the case. If you've got any questions regarding the Santa Clara market, you've got any questions regarding your home, or you're thinking of buying and you want to have a consultation, I'm always available to talk to you. Feel free to contact me. I'll post my information here. And thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next market update.